students. So I met one professor, his name is Professor Ago, and I took a class with him, and that class was called mediatization of all the things. And I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the concept of media. I fell in love with how the society is addicted to media, how media dictates what we do every day. I was hooked. And I had found my passion. And so after I finished my PhD, I got a call to go to teach at Oakwood. And of course, it's an extension of what I was actually doing. And so I'm at a point of life where I'm able to blend ministry, theology, and media, and social media and stuff like that. And so that's just a little bit of my background.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Kaba. Now, in the audience, and if you're viewing online, you can send a thumbs up in the chat. For all those who are studying media and communication, whether it's a general degree you're doing it as, or you have an emphasis, who is really in the department studying to work in the field? Raise your hand. All right. Who is pursuing their degree to work in the media industry, enterprise, or field? All right. And who is studying media to get a deeper knowledge? And who is studying just because they feel like it is just something to do? Okay, okay, all right, I see the hands. Now, Dr. Koba, you have many years of experience, knowledge and wisdom. Over 20 years? How was that playfield for you? How was it navigating? And what's one key thing you have learned during those years?
I think like in any career, it's never easy because there's always valleys and mountains that you have to climb. And in your introduction, you ask a question, do we belong to media houses or do we belong in these spaces? And my answer is simple, yes. We belong in these spaces. And I think as communication professionals, especially in a world that has completely surrendered itself to media and technology, we have to learn how to filter information. Of course, media is good because media educates us. Media leads us and makes things easier for us. I think as students, you're getting into the field where you will be required to make certain decisions for you. And I think those decisions starts now. And it could be as simple as there is this show that has these things that I shouldn't watch. Making a decision, a conscious decision, that no, I'm not going to watch that. Or I'm following this particular celebrity or whatever, but it doesn't align with my principles. I think when you train yourself to say no, I think it will be easier down the line because you will be required to make a decision. And what I find is that people who didn't train themselves to know when to absorb certain media or make certain decisions, they usually found themselves in a place where they shouldn't. And so it becomes harder for them to make those decisions. So the point of training yourself is right now by the media you actually consume every single day.
You know what's so funny, Dr. Kaba? Once you've just entered into the Department of Communication Studies, we have, let's say, our mini list, right? Our introduction, where we sit in a room with senior teachers, senior students, and they evaluate us. They read us, they have their check sheet, and they evaluate us. And every question has to do with integrity and how your moral standing is. And every class that you enter, whether it's group dynamics and leadership, production house, or intro to advertising, something always comes out with how your moral standing or your moral compass is. So integrity is one thing, and it all comes down to your brand, right? You really have to make your brand last, and our brand that says making it last. That brand has a song in it. I think it's Miss Noreen Daly's song, making it last. The podcast, yes. But we really have to make our brand last. So you have to know what you stand for, who you represent, and as you said earlier today, what are the stuffs you're letting into your offices? What's the things you're listening to? What's the things you're saying? So it is really, really key. Now tell me, I'm curious to know. Communication and theology. We have some theology students minoring in DCS. How did that, or how does that gel together?
Yeah, and always I get that question a lot. They always ask, which one do you love more? And I think the blend of theology, right now, working at Oakwood and also being an ordained pastor, still ministering and all that, I found myself recently being able to provide a perspective on media that pastors who are only trained in theology cannot provide. Okay? And so, for the recent past, now I'm writing for the ministry magazine, and my recent article was on how artificial intelligence is affecting ministry. So, I'm bringing an aspect that is needed in ministry right now. Now, if you think of, in US, they give you a district to pastor. But now with online streaming, with social media, we are not tied to zip code. You can have people watching you in another continent. And so that's where I'm coming in. That's where, and I've realized conferences need this. And so I'm able to help pastors, help ministers how to leverage social media for their ministry, how to do YouTube for their ministry, how to do their websites. Because if you go to most church websites, they are really, really basic and messed up. And so I'm able to provide that knowledge, but at the same time, I have a background that they also have. Okay, so I'm bringing a perspective that is really, really unique. And when I got into communication and media, that's when I realized how important media is in ministry. And so teaching a class like church and media becomes very, very key, because I'm not just giving a theological background, but I'm giving a media perspective of that. So you may think that these two areas are totally opposite of each other, but a pastor who has not embraced media today, probably they will be on a downward spiral, because they will not be able to reach people like a person who have leveraged media to do ministry.
Right, and the sad reality is that media is often seen as very secular. We have our advertisements, we have the parties and the soca rave going on, and we have the negative influences on media. But I must ask you, well, you touched on it a little bit earlier, but what has your experience been like as a Christian interacting with other Christians when it comes on to using media and implementing it in the church?
Yeah, that's a great question, and now we are seeing it more and more because churches need media, and now people like me get a lot of calls from pastors. How do we do this in our church? How we are trying to do outreach, but we are struggling in this aspect, and so it's an area, especially Jesus is coming soon. We need to share the gospel so that it can move as quickly and as fast as possible. And so my experience have been pretty much positive as far as sharing